All right. Well, welcome inside to another edition of Alex Garrett Podcasting. Cyril White is my guest once again to Glory Be to God Sports. Of course, we brought him on after his riveting speech at the George Floyd Memorial last year. Cyril, I can't believe that's nearly a year ago, firstly. Secondly, a lot's happened for you, a lot's happened for my podcast. And so, welcome back and thanks for continuing this journey on this podcast with me and letting us continue the journey with you.
Hey man, it's great. And you're right. There has been, time flies. Time definitely flies. And, definitely glad to, still be alive. So much uncertainty in the world. And yeah, I'm glad that you're still continuing to keep the fire brewing. I've been following your podcast, and you have a lot of interesting guests. So appreciate the work you're doing too.
Well, we're at it, but I want to bring you back because last time we talked, we wondered if there would be justice for the Floyd family and George Floyd. A week ago, we saw that answer. I can say I gotta say you're probably very happy, as is the rest of America. Um, First of all, what were your thoughts? Did you cry? What was your first reaction when all counts were found guilty?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm firstly am very happy to see the Floyd family get justice in this case. I'm almost, equally as saddened for the family of Mr. Derek Chauvin that their lives have been disrupted too by what that his actions. I think sometimes there's so much focus on George Floyd, his family, and just how much their lives have been turned upside down. There are a lot of members of the Chauvin family that are innocent too, as well, just as innocent as the Floyd family. So, that was kind of, once I saw Chauvin stand up, put his hands on the back like that, and just kind of just like stood there, just 10 toes down, and just took it on the chin and just walked out of there, his shoulders erect. I just, again, I just, you got to, to God, the to God be the glory mindset in me won't just allow me to look at it one way.
So, did the celebrating bother you in that sense when you look at it in that perspective?
I can't say, well, what I will say is that I did not go out and celebrate. That's what I'll say. I'll say that everybody has the right to express their emotions, how they feel. I definitely can feel that it was a sigh of relief. I will say that because too many times, Alex, incidents occur like this and there's no punishment. There's the officers that commit these acts, these crimes, actually crimes by their in the uniform with the badge, and they never see any punishment. So, it was a sigh of relief to know something that was caught on camera and was so highly publicized around the world that the right thing happened. And that I think that was more so, my real feeling around it is because just like you said, we all feel like that's what should have happened.
Right. But it's interesting you say because I also felt like it was an earth shattering moment in that we've never seen a cop get charged on all counts like that. I don't ever remember in my lifetime this happening. And so I still say there has to be. I hope police officers are not scared to do their job now after it. I will add that to it. So, you're in the community, and I know you are for community police teamwork. So, after this conviction, does that change? What does that do? Does that increase the need for more community and police interaction on the good side, if you will?
One of the statements that the prosecution made during their closing statement that really, really resonated with me was when he said, "This is not an anti-police conviction. This is an anti-Derek Chauvin Act conviction. This conviction has nothing to do. In fact, this is a pro-police conviction that the policeman might be might know that there will be punishment if they don't follow the strict training that they undergo. So I really appreciate that, because that's how we all need to think. We need to be pro police in the fact that police do serve a purpose and they do protect, but it's just those officers that take the wrong attitudes on the job,
Mm-hmm.
just take the wrong attitude to the job. So yes, I think it's going to drive more unity projects. In fact, I've heard so many different people around the country talking about things that they're already doing in their pockets of the country.
Cyril, we talk about to glory be to God, and one of the reasons why I brought you on was because you channeled that anger, that upset of the loss of George Floyd into sports. You made a complex in his memory. So how's the complex going? How are the kids doing? How's it all going with to glory be to God sports, George
Boy,
Floyd Memorial?
I tell you what, George Floyd went to Yates High School here, Houston, Texas. And, one thing, COVID has limited a lot of the assembly with things. But to God be the glory, involved with the Yates boys basketball team and golf team, and just continuing to be a part of mentoring there. We just kind of do a glance here of a rendering of the sports complex and what it's
Wow.
going to come to look like. Okay, so this is an aerial view of the 5 acres, the layout. And this is kind of a, look at the gymnasium and how it's coming along. So, this is actually in the back of my book, On the Path to Life. And, in this book here, it has my speech from George Floyd's funeral,
Wow.
and we added some pictures in the back from, George Floyd when he was playing with our basketball team. So, this was just like one of here are some pictures here from George Floyd with the team.
Oh, wow.
Here he's got his 3 fingers up here on this picture. You see him in the back there.
I do. Wow.
So,
Those are classics.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Classics, man. So, this book, all the proceeds from this book have been going towards that center. And man, it's just been a great process. There are so many people that just want to connect and be a part of something positive. So we just wanted that center to be a great landing point for all that positive energy.
Cyril, I just learned a couple days ago that it's Stress Awareness Month. And obviously, for those following the trial, for those involved with this whole, killing of George Floyd, there was a lot of stress to this. And you got the feeling a week ago that the stress was lifted off big time for those that wanted to see justice. And then the whole term of, well, there's more work to be done. But Cyril, I got to ask you this. You've been so calm through it all. Like, you've been a calming force. How have you stayed at that calm level when everything's going on around you? How did you do that? And I'm sure that's been a help around your team members as well, to have your calm leadership through all of this.
I appreciate that observation. I spent 2/3 of my adult life in China, having played basketball in China and taking teams in and out of there. And, I traveled to the Chauvin monks temple in Dongfeng, China, in Zhengzhou province. So, I've really observed a lot of the calm and the serenity of the Chinese culture. And, that became a big part of me, as I was living in China, just making those observations. And then, just like I said earlier, the balance, there has to be balance, because there are 2 sides to it. Like I said, just we're happy about that the justice system did what it was supposed to do in convicting Derek Chauvin for his individual act, But just as Mr. George Floyd's family innocently is enduring the byproduct of that, so is Mr. Chauvin's family. So it's just like it's those types of things that kind of give me the focus on Okay, you can only bring people together if you're really looking at both sides objectively like that. I can't bring groups together if I have a
Mm,
bias toward side.
mm.
You have to really look at both sides worthy of the attention to make the connection.
Cyril, you're
So
hitting on a point I made earlier in the week, which was we have to adapt to each other if we want to bridge the gap. You know what I mean? You can't have everybody on this two sides of the thing. You just have to adapt and interact with each other again, connect again. This pandemic has really disconnected us, and at the same time, it's connected us. I mean, you and I met through this pandemic, and we've stayed connected since. Thanks be to God, thanks to Zoom and
right, that's
to
right,
LinkedIn.
right. Absolutely.
But in general, the gap exists because no one wants to adapt to each other, actually talk to each other, right?
Here in Houston, Texas, we had a police chief, Art Acevedo. He
Mm-hmm.
recently left Houston to Miami, took it off of there. So we had a longtime police officer and servant to the community, Troy Finner, who was a product of Houston ISD. He went to Madison High School here in Houston, graduated in 1985. This guy's police chief now, and you the bad word anywhere about Troy Finner around the Houston community. You know what I mean? So
That's
he's
good.
already got a reputation not in the community. And, he because of that, he's got a great opportunity to extinguish some of these emotional fires, right? Tear
Mm.
down these walls and barriers. Now he's new to the post, so he's in his transitional phase, but I've got a lot of confidence about what he's going to be able to accomplish here in Houston. And with Houston being in the top 5 biggest cities in the USA,
I heard
if
it's
we can
fourth
get
biggest, actually.
we can get something established down in H Town, it'll trickle over. We can be the model for cities and states around the nation.
Hey, while we're on that note, how has it been having everything wide open again in Texas? I mean, I heard it was like an uproar when Governor Abbott went 100%, but are cases down? What's the attitude like and atmosphere like having
Well,
been open again?
the atmosphere is certainly wide open, but not for Cyril White. Cyril, I'm going to spend time in my home office. I really haven't been, going to our normal home office space. Been spending a lot of time here in my home office. I'm not in situations where I'm in big crowds. You
That's
know,
good.
most of my meetings, I'm doing them through Zoom.
So we didn't
Um,
catch you at the Rangers opening day, in other words, right?
oh my goodness. Wow. It's interesting because I think that we've gotten such a relaxed attitude with the vaccine being distributed, and people just kind of having a sample size of who caught COVID, who's died, who survived, and just a bigger sample size of information. So I just think it changes everybody's attitude. But for me, I'm masked up and I'm staying isolated as much as possible.
Personally, as a baseball fan, I was happy that someone tried it only because, gotta get back to normal at some point, and I felt that that was an interesting step forward. That would, of course, draw controversy. But let's stick to sports for a minute because obviously you mentioned China, and I couldn't help but think of when you were pre-pandemic, you're actually in China at a basketball tournament over there, which got canceled. But LeBron James then tweets out this thing about the other cop that shot Ma'Khia Bryant and what was he in the right? What do you think when athletes do go down that road of even exposing and quote unquote doxing a cop? I mean that didn't seem right. It didn't sit right with me, and I'm sure it didn't sit right with you. So if you were to coach your guys, how do you coach your guys on social media? Hey, you know what? You're athletes, but you're also humans. You have to sort of weigh in that balance. How do you teach that to your guys?
Well, first I'll say that uh, I can't. I can say that I really like the fact that LeBron James is vocal, and I like the fact that high-profile athletes who are influencers and influential, I like that they are vocal and try to bring awareness to social issues, important issues. I do think that you need to just do your research
Mhm.
before you speak on anything. And are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here. Yep.
It's just do your research before you speak on anything, because all athletes and celebrities are polarizing. Either you got people who really love them or people who really don't. So I definitely think these gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, are in a very powerful position. But with that comes great responsibility, right? You got to do all of your due diligence, um, and that's the only thing. Now, you said that you sure it doesn't sit right with me. Um, I think I understand what LeBron's intentions were. I understand what his intentions were. His intention, he just, hey, what I'm saying is, I'm tired of seeing police kill citizens, more specifically Black people. Now, you know, that was his intention, because it was infuriating, right? And perhaps he didn't have all the information. Perhaps he couldn't make a critical assessment with all the perhaps. But what he did know is, from whatever information he was able to gather, he didn't like it. And he thought that somebody should be held accountable. Now, one thing that he still is, he's a basketball player. He's not a judge. He's not a jury. He's just a famous basketball player. So in that regard, he's allowed to express his opinion. And what's interesting about that, Alex, is though he's not a judge, though he's not a jury, his opinion is going to have equal or greater weight than people in those positions to the public.
Sure. Well, and that's why I think a little more responsibility, only because it just, to me, it felt like he was calling for the cop's head, and that did not sit right with me.
Yeah, and I understand, like you said, he was doing that based on the limited information. So I think what we do agree on, what we totally agree on, is that you got to be responsible when you
Absolutely.
make these, and that you really, you can say what you want, but it's in your best interest to have all your facts straight before you start speaking on something, for someone come with a rebuttal and it makes you look like you know what you're talking about.
Cyril, I think you should almost teach a class because you're in that community. You're in the sports world. You should almost, become professor of that and say, hey, I've coached guys. I can coach on how to react to this because maybe they don't have enough coaching on how to react to these things in the public sphere. Would you agree?
In the NBA, they have an orientation that all rookies go through. And, when guys get to the level of a LeBron James, they certainly have, public relations
Mm-hmm.
assistants, and, there are a lot of people around them to be able to help. Now, in my regards, with to God be the glory, if I take a guy on a tour to China or any foreign country, yeah, that's certainly part of my orientation too. I have a list of do's and don'ts, list of things never to comment on in certain countries, and the biggest rule of thumb in all of the contracts is, before you speak to any media in a foreign country, come see me first.
Because
And if
you
I could
never know
sit
what.
in,
Yeah.
and if I sit in on it, and I'm gonna sit in on the interview, and then if there's anything you should, I'm just not gonna let you answer. And then after we leave that meeting, I'm going to explain to you why. So that's kind of how I get guys to be more savvy when you're dealing with the media, especially in foreign countries.
Sure. Yeah, and here in America, I think the media is a little tougher on everybody too. I mean, it's a wild, and that's the other thing is like we do need our independent sources too, right? Because the media doesn't always do us justice either. And to the point on that, when Laura Ingraham said "shut up and dribble," I didn't like that either. Like I think these guys should be able to have a voice. It's just you pair that with the responsibility, and you got a winning formula right there.
Responsibility. That's what it is. So, I want to speak back to the Bridges, situation, and
Sure.
how that's been so controversial and how that happened. We had a few deaths. We had my guy, the young man Dante.
Yeah.
Um, Dante was get killed
Dante
in,
Wright.
right? Yeah, get killed up in Minnesota. Then we had this, you know, 13-year-old boy in Chicago, and then we had this other young lady. Who was that?
Makia
Bridget.
Bryant.
Makia Bryant. Okay, so so it's like this, like, it seems like the media, it's like they kind of just really sensationalizing these deaths between citizens and police, like that we need to know about it. But it's almost like this sensationalized yellow journalism approach. Now, yellow journalism, that's a strong term for me to use because
Very
that's
strong.
kind of national. Fire Star magazine, but it's still like they really sensationalize this and try to really draw people into it, and it becomes so polarized and divisive, right? It's informative, but it's information that divides further. Do you agree with that?
Well, it's drumming up something that maybe should not be drumming up. And the release of all these information came at a time where, the Chauvin trial was coming, was due a verdict, and then they come out with these stories. It did add fuel to the fire, if I'm being honest with you. I mean,
Yeah,
I agree,
but
I agree with you.
go ahead.
There's a way to report on it too, which I think is what you're hitting on right now.
And then what the world did for the most part. Now you say you got a few conservatives that just won't admit and accept that what Chauvin did was wrong. But for the greater consensus of common sense people, everybody thought that that was wrong.
Correct.
All right. Now you have differing opinions on all of these other cases based on what has happened on the video, right? With Dante Wright, number one, he broke away from the thing. He ran, jumped in his car after he was okay, and he was on he was having a warrant for robbery. Okay, so that's a different case. I'm not justifying anything. So the listeners at home, I'm not justifying anything. What I am is stating that you can't hear every single thing in one pile. You have to look at everything case by case, which is why it has a case number. You look at the young man, what happened with Bridges, okay, the knife, the fight, the this, okay, that. Somebody about to get potentially killed, harmed, maimed. Okay, that's a different situation.
Yep.
Every situation is different. This other 13-year-old boy was a gun involved. It's 2:30 in the morning, gang type thing. Everything is different. You can't just heap everything in one pile and be like, the police are just going wild out here. They just killing people, kill at will.
And that's not the case either. I agree. I don't believe that's the case. They just, it felt to me like they were saying the cops kill someone almost every day. And I'm like, that can't
But
be
might
right.
though, Alex, they might kill somebody every day. They might kill more than one person every day. I'm not justifying it, but what I am saying is you got to look at this thing case by case, man.
So why are we in a society that doesn't? I mean, why do we go so wrong to that? Every little thing becomes like we got to watch out if there's going to be a riot. Like,
hey man, you got blank. I just feel like let's go back 8 sentences ago. That word was talking about responsibility. Who wants to be responsible or who wants to blame? One of my good clients, Trey Moore, played, and he used to win the MVP all the time. And we used to always talk about this personal accountability, and we used to say the blame game is lame. Blame game is lame. Blame game lame. Like you can't. You got to take responsibility.
Damn right.
Because you got to look like, okay, and again, okay, responsibility, individual citizen, police officer, everybody has some responsibility. If you fail to do what you're responsible for doing, if I'm trying to get you to take responsibility for your part, that doesn't mean I'm trying to give the other part an exemption or justification. It's not an exemption. It's not a justification. It's just an acknowledgement of where the responsibility should have been distributed.
Exactly. You know, Cyril, I got to ask this. It's this mindset that I feel that brings players of all kinds down to your complex because they know that you've got an even mindset. Would you agree?
I really hope so. And that's the thing. That's the thing. I do look at it. I do look at it as a weeding out process. I want players and clients, athletes who are no nonsense, right? Who get to the black and white of it and who own up. You don't want to cheat yourself in workouts. You don't want to
Mm,
cheat yourself in the paperwork, in the process. Whatever we do, we want to strive to be excellent at it, right? Because at the end of the
mm-hmm.
day, the blame game is lame. Now, on both sides, yes, police, they need to take responsibility if they're not adhering to training, if they're not using their best judgment. But citizens also have to, take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I 13 out at 2:30 in the morning with the gun and gang? Why am I there? Parents, why is your kid there? I've had
Mm-hmm.
13-year-old kids. They been outside doing that ever.
But that's why
Why
sports is so
why
important because they bring sports brings us together, brings us out of that danger zone. No.
right. That's yeah. So this 13-year-old kid, he was 13, he holding a gun. I had a basketball in my hands at all times at age 13. I had a
Mm-hmm.
ping pong paddle in my hands, a ping pong paddle. You got to have the wrong things in your hand. And sports, it gives you some goals, it gives you some camaraderie or some
Mm-hmm.
positive vision, something that you can hold on to, build a life around.
Hey, I wanted to say thank you for James Harden. We are really excited to have him in Brooklyn. And that's been weighing on my mind because you said Houston. I'm like, yeah, of course, James Harden. What a topic of conversation. Because now that's a guy that seemed to, well, the Rockets' mistake was getting rid of Morey, right? I mean,
Oh.
if they kept him, you would keep Harden at this point. So I'm thankful that the Nets got him, and I'm a Knick fan, but I'm glad that the Nets got him because what a show every night in Brooklyn.
James Harden is the man. He can score the ball. I really enjoyed watching him play, and I think I was also privileged to have some access to his private workouts when he would work out in the off season down here with Coach John Lucas, and it's just 10 minutes up the street from my 10 minutes down the street from my house. Pop in and just watch him do work, man. He's a joy to watch.
And well, yeah, I mean that. So I was going to say, I hope to see you up here in Brooklyn one of these days to catch a game.
I brought a group. I love that. I brought a group from China over to the Barclays Center,
Oh wow,
working with Stephon Marbury, and we brought a group of 20 people from China to come. I think it was the Brooklyn Nets versus Sacramento Kings. It was a few years ago, and we had a
nice.
great time out there. It's great. I really like the Barclays Center too. It was my first time checking it out. It's a nice building, man. They put some good work into that.
It is a beautiful building, and it's so striking. You go outside, it just their presence is known, and I love that you can see the ice or court right from the entrance. It's just so cool.
Unbelievable. Walked in, it's just like that. Yeah.
All right, well now that we're sticking in basketball and NBA, on the other side of town in Dallas, you've got Mark Cuban saying, "Well, we're not going to play the anthem." I mean, was that the right move either? Like, it just seemed like a boneheaded move to me. But
Again, it's just this is America, and everybody has deep opinions, deep rooted feelings about what they need to do. And I cannot say about Mark Cuban. Can I say that? Um, Mark Cuban is a very smart man, and whether he felt that he should, what was he really trying to bring attention to by saying that? I think
right,
it was more than him saying, I don't want to play the national anthem before my games. I think it was more him trying to draw attention to something else around that issue. That's my opinion of that.
Oh wow, that's true too. I guess they ended up playing it after all. Cyril, I've got to say, so it's been nearly a year, as I mentioned at the top. So, what progress has been made for you guys at to Glory Be to God Sports? Like, what kind of progress report would you have for us in addition to talking about everything else? How's the program going? Has it grown? How has it gone through the pandemic too? I mean, we almost talked at the beginning of the pandemic. You went through a whole few months of it. So, how's it been during that whole time after May?
It's been a great growing time. I think the biggest part are the type of national
Hmm.
partnership, national support group that I've been able to establish around the nation. We've always been based in Houston and doing things in China, but being back at home, back in the
Hmm.
States, formed great partnerships with people out there in the LA area, out in Newport Beach. A group that's out in Portland, Oregon, who has 4 acres of land that they want to commit to a Unity Through Sports project. So, really, listen, a letter of cooperation that I'm here holding right here from Liberia, from the government of Liberia, who has some land that they want to dedicate to a Unity Through Sports project. So the different people from around the world that are committing resources for Unity Through Sports projects, that's been the international growth. And it's a lot to manage, Alex.
Yeah.
It's a lot to manage, but like I said, once we get it going in Houston, we can duplicate it in these places.
Once I've got to ask you, did you think the impact of speaking of George Floyd's memorial would help grow it, or did you go up there mainly to talk about your friend? Like, I feel like it's so genuine that you didn't even know the impact it would
I
have.
really didn't know. I really didn't know. I was really honored that his family, thought enough of "To God Be the Glory" and George Floyd's time with it to ask me to speak at that occasion. It was such a high profile event. Um, and with so many negative things being said about Floyd at that time, I just really want to speak truth about what I knew and our experiences together. I'm just sitting here, man. I'm just sitting here at my desk. I randomly got these pictures randomly. Look at this.
Mm,
This picture of Floyd. You see Floyd hitting this picture,
look at
standing
that.
up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. How tall was he again?
Well, they list him at what, 6'6". And
Wow.
of course, everybody's seen this one a lot. This is the one they use a lot. He's standing right there behind me. You
And up
know,
until the
uh,
tragedy, he was playing ball, right? I mean, up until.
well, you heard even his girlfriend say on the stage he would still like to throw football around and
Hmm.
lift weights and do pull-ups every day. So, the Unity Through Sports project will be a great memorial. Not only inspired by George Floyd, but all of these other tragedies that were just misunderstandings between police and citizens. So that's the ultimate goal. I really wish people to, the To God Be the Glory Sports website, right? Just go to tgbtgsports.com and they can learn more about it and see how they can get involved, how they can support. That's really what I like from their listeners.
Well, tgbtgsports.com is the
That's
website.
right. Correct.
Well,
Thank you.
I'll make sure to link that in our sort of chapter section of the podcast. I'll definitely put that link up there for people to click. And Cyril, as always, it's been great talking to you once again. And we got to do it more than just every year. I'll try
We
and bring
got
you
to do
back
something
on.
quarterly. We got to do something quarterly, man, because you're up there in New York, and I appreciate you, exposing me to your listening audience in that part of the country. And likewise, I like being able to share, with my group about, we have great conversation, and I really appreciate your energy.
Well, I wanted to ask you one thing because you talk about balance. So, in the midst of all this stuff, we still see videos of cops literally playing basketball with the kids on the street. I mean, to
Right.
even see that is pretty cool, is it not?
Correct, because that's where we need to go more towards that. Like I said, we used to have the PAL League, Police Athletic League here in Houston.
We have it
And
in New York too. Yeah.
once you get the police and the citizens together, playing some sports in a relaxed environment with some camaraderie, man, that breaks it changes the attitudes and it trickles down.
There's also been a lot of conversation before I let you go that, in the community, people in those communities should become part of the police force. And so, what are your thoughts on that while I have you? Because I know you're very involved with the community. So, is that a good route? Do you feel like there's no enthusiasm? How enthusiastic are people of the community to go into the police force to
Great
change things
question.
up?
Great question. You can recall when we were in the third grade, fifth grade, teacher asking us what you want to grow up. Lots of kids were saying firemen, policemen, things like that. There used to be a lot of pride in that profession, people growing up. But now with all the controversy, it's a very dangerous profession. And so I think that over time, as the community's relationship with the police departments around the country improve, you're going to see more people start to want to be a part of that profession again. Right now, the PR for to be a police officer, I mean, that's just not something where kids are just being motivated to go towards. But I definitely think that it's going to change. I think the way this happened with Derek Chauvin is giving the community a renewed faith.
And I just feel like, Cyril, you're going to be part of that change, aren't you?
I'm glad to be. To God be the glory. I'm here for it.
He has you where he wants you. I mean, I always believe that for anybody I bring on this podcast, and he's got you where he wants you right now.
Amen. I take it.
Cyril, it's always great to have you. Cyril White, to Glory Be to God Sports. We'll talk about the Unity Project when you get back. And yes, let's make this quarterly because things are always moving for you and I guess for me. So I'd love to talk about it with you.
No doubt. And be sure your viewers can hop on and get the copy of the book now. Everybody go get the book. It's going to support the project, and I'll get it to you called, as soon as you go. Right.
For those on the podcast, On the Path to Life. And it's by Cyril White. And you can find it on Amazon, right?
You get it on my site, on the God Be the Glory site, TGBTG Buy it on the website, $15.
And I'll link it up. All right, Cyril, congrats on the book. Congrats on the progress, and congrats on feeling that relief a week and a day ago. Really glad to have you talk about it tonight.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, Alex, and I'll talk with you later. You have a great night.
I'm Alex Garrett, where we're always adapting. Thanks for listening, and talk to you soon. That was perfect, Cyril.
Man,
thank you so much.
Hey, man, much love. I'll talk with you, man.
I love your energy. I gotta say, I love your energy. You got a good even keel.
We always have good shows. So let me see it when it